Okay, so we're going to now start to talk about pensions. Yes, there's a wave of excitement over there on the blue table, I think. So throughout the 4 days that we're together, there are going to be various people from the outside who are going to come in and present some information to you. Okay, so we have a number of speakers throughout the 4 days. So the speakers have been briefed, and they are usually going to talk to you for about 15 minutes or so. Okay, this one's a bit different because I'm going to be asking Suzy some questions. But normally it will be a speaker up the front talking at you for about 15 minutes, maybe with some slides and stuff. And the process that we usually follow is that you will see on your table some red cards. So if the person up the front speaking starts using terminology that some of you might not understand, then you can hold up your red card. So if Suzy starts talking about market volatility, for example, I would be right in there with my red card because I haven't got a clue what that means. But if you have questions, it's best if you don't interrupt the session with your questions. Because what we will do after the speaker has spoken is that you, in your small groups, will have a chat with the help of your facilitator about what you've heard, and you will write down any questions that you might have. And then some of those questions from across the tables will be asked in a question and answer session. So if you were to interrupt the session with a question, then it will go off in all kinds of directions. And that will probably be the person that's super confident and able to ask the question. So we don't want to do that. So if you do have a question when you're listening, then maybe make a note of it, and then you can talk about it in a small group. But if there's stuff that you just do not understand, terminology, then hold up your red card. Okay. The other thing I want to say is we're sat on these stools here, not so that we look like we're on a game show or something, but so that you can all see. Just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, it's not blind date. Okay, so I'm going to ask about 5 questions of Suzy, but Suzy, first of all, is going to introduce herself and say a little bit about herself.
Sure. So, kia ora koutou, hello everyone. I come from New Zealand, so if you don't understand me because of my accent, then you can also put up a red card and I'll try really hard to change it. Okay, so I work at the Pensions Policy Institute. So what we do is we do research. So we talk about pensions every day. I appreciate that might not at the moment sound like your top job, but we all love pensions, and that's what we do. So I've been in pensions for quite a while, doing research and working for government. So I'm very happy to answer questions about pensions today.
And what kind of organisation is the Pensions Policy Institute? How are you funded, for example?
Awesome people like Nest, and so we are funded partly by pension providers, partly by a couple of government departments, some consultants, people who give advice on different aspects of pension administration and things. So a range of different people, and then that way we're a charity. And so having lots of different people that give us our donations mean that we just can be independent and just do the research and tell you what the answer is, not perhaps what answers people are hoping for, but we'll just tell you what the actual evidence is. So that's what we do.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm in a really good position to ask all these questions because I haven't got a clue about pensions, and my pension situation is appalling. So, what can I do? So the first question for you is, tell us what is an occupational pension?
Sure. So an occupational pension is the pension that your employer pays into when you also pay into it. There's a you do it and I'll do it kind of combination required. And it's the pension that your employer pays into. So it's they pay into a pot of money, and I suspect we'll get a little bit more into this, but they essentially kind of keep a pot of retirement savings for you with your name on it that reflects the contributions that you and your employer made. Yeah, I might leave that there and I'll come back as questions arise. But yeah, it's kind of, that's what that is. It's your retirement savings that are being collected as you go through your working life.
Okay, and so how does that differ from a state pension?
So a state pension is the pension that you will get when you reach a certain age, when you reach state pension age, which is going to be 67 shortly. So when you reach that age, then you will receive a benefit, a welfare payment of state pension from the government. There are also some, you do something and I'll do something, bits to the state pension as well, right? So you have to have what they call a contribution history. So you have to have a history of either paying national insurance contributions, which we do when we get paid. We don't see it, it just comes out of our, how they take the tax out. You don't see it, they take the national insurance contributions at the same time. So you either have to have a history of paying those national insurance contributions, which you will get if you spend your younger years in paid work, or a history of looking after a child. So a number of years ago, they made some changes to recognise unpaid work that most often women do, and so you also get a credit, essentially a tick for that year. Yeah, you were at home raising a child that year, so you kind of get a tick. And so if you've got 30 years, then you get a full state pension. So you might hear people talking about the amount of pension they get. So if you've done 30 years over your life, you'll be getting a full state pension. And if you've done 15 years, that's when they start to say, okay, well, we'll give you some state pension, but it won't be the whole amount. And that's when they start to just give you a lower amount. And obviously it varies, 15, 20, up to 30 to get the 4 years. So that's a bit different. So that isn't a kind of pot of money that's got your name on it, but they are looking to see that you have been doing your bit in terms of the what they call a participatory approach, that you were paying in your national insurance, or you were doing other worthwhile things like raising a family.
And so if I was to look at my paycheck at the end of the month, I'd see national insurance written on it, and that? Yeah,
you would. You'd see a nice big number, the top number, what we call our gross amount, but that's not the amount we get in our bank, tragically. So you'd see that, and then you'd see the tax, and then you'd see national insurance, and then you'd also see pension contribution as well, which is what you were at. It's where we started with what's your occupational pension. You would see on there the amount that you've paid in, and it depends on, I'm not sure of pay slip requirements, but I suspect also you'd see the bit that you paid in, probably you'd see the bit the employer's paid in as well.
Okay. And so I've heard people talk about automatic contributions. What does that mean?
Do you mean auto-enrolment?
Pardon?
Do you mean auto-enrolment?
Automatic enrolment? I think so. Is that the same thing? Tell me what automatic enrolment is.
So automatic enrolment is a thing that the government introduced a few years ago because not many of us actually had occupational pensions. Because, like I said, oddly, we don't always spend our time thinking about pensions. So what they did was, when you go and you get a new job and you fill out your forms and you tell them who you are and you give them your bank details and everything, at that point, as long as you were over 22 and earning over 10 grand, you were automatically enrolled, so signed up straight away, into the occupational pension for that employer. So that used to have, those occupational pensions existed before, but not everyone by default, without having to do anything, without you guys having to do anything. It wasn't always the case that we all got them. It was just for certain people. So automatic enrolment is the way that most of us, myself included, have got ourselves an occupational pension by doing absolutely nothing. Isn't that brilliant? So is that what you're
Okay, that's great, thank you. And Nest is a defined contribution scheme.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So this is about those contributions that I was saying, you'll pay in some money out of your wages, and your employer will pay in some money out of their money. And those are the contributions that go into your retirement savings pot. And so when we talk about what you're going to get at the end, when you reach those later years, you're going to get the contributions as defined by what you put in and what your employer put in. But crucially, of course, and I think you'll be talking more about this later, by the end, when you're in your 60s, obviously that pot of money is now much bigger than just all the contributions you put in and all the contributions they put in, because that money will have been invested and will have grown. So it won't be the same dollar. There we go. It won't be the same amount because it will have grown. But that's what I mean. Then in DC, they call it defined contributions. It's all about how much you put in and, of course, what you do with it in terms of its investments.
So there's all these pots of money that we are putting into our pension scheme. And then you say those pots of money are invested.
Yes.
So what does that mean? I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, so so when we save, I'll start by not answering the question, but I will answer. So when we save normally, ourselves, we might have a bank account and we'll just put money into it, but it just sits there as cash, and then we take it out. And sometimes it grows a bit more because you get interest, but not heaps, So that's kind of one way of doing it. What we do with the pension schemes is that we invest them, which means we don't just leave them in a bank account to grow and just by the amount of interest that they might gain, but we actually invest them in shares largely, so in the share market. So as they might, to use American parlance, stocks in the shares, but yeah, so actually people are buying shares, which we hope will grow in value, also making other types of investments like big infrastructure projects and those kind of things, by putting them into things that they expect to make money over time, and crucially, more than it would make if you just left it as cash sitting there and hoping it would grow by interest.
So it's about, tell me if this is right, so it's about Nest and other pension schemes investing in other companies?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's through shares? That's
right.
Give me a quick explanation of what shares are, please.
Sure. So we might have our pension savings invested in things like Apple and Nike and all of those brands that we know. So we'll find them. They could be in those kinds of things. And then, like I say, others will be in bigger kind of meatier projects, building, so much in this country, but building roads that then have tolls on them, to pay back and those kinds of things, those bigger types of investments. But largely we'll have bought ourselves a wee bit of, some big brand name of a company.
Okay, so far so good. My final question is, I'm of the age where lots of people say to me, "Oh, so are you looking to retire, Pete?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be nice, but I've got to keep on working."
Depends what the lottery numbers are on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that Nest might do something for me at the end of this weekend. What do I need to say to all those people that are saying, "Oh, Pete, are you retiring? What's going to happen with your retirement?" Why are occupational pensions an important part of your retirement income? Or for me, why should it be an important part of my retirement?
So crucially, I guess, goes back to that thing that I was saying, that you put in money into your retirement savings and your employer puts money in. So having yourself an occupational pension is, a way of getting more money in your retirement saving than you would have had if you were just doing that yourself, if you were just using your own money, because when you're doing it through the occupational pension, you're getting these employer contributions as well. So that's kind of why it's so important. And like I said, when we get to a certain age, we'll have most likely a state pension, and that will go so far in paying for the things that we need in life when we're older. But then an occupational pension will give us, more money to pay for more things that we're going to need in life. So it's an important part of planning for later life. And I know we don't often turn our minds to what it's going to be like when we're older, but there'll be a point when we're not in paid work and we're going to need something to live off, and the state pension is likely to be a part of that, but occupational pensions are likely to be much more.
Okay, amazing. Okay, can we say a big thanks to Suzy, please?